Well, it's 11 minutes past 8, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome everybody to the Sepolia Odyssey Speedrun Ethereum Challenge 2 Token Vendor. And in this challenge, we are going to explore building a token vendor application with the Speedrun Ethereum Challenge. So, as usual, to get started, we're going to hop over to speedrunethereum.com and look at the token vendor challenge and walk through it. So, let's get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got lots of tabs open. So, yep, gotta find that. Okay, perfect. So, can everybody see my screen? So, I think I'm gonna go ahead to, this isn't exactly where we need to be. So I'm gonna do speed run Ethereum. All right, so we are gonna go all the way down. We've done the simple NFT, decentralized staking, and now we are at token vendor and Quest. So this is what we are going to be doing today. It's a token vendor. And what that is, it's like a vending machine where you put in some token and a drink or a snack or a candy pops out and you can eat it or drink it. But this is for tokens. And so you can create a vendor where you can give it one token and it spits out another token. So let's jump right into what we have here. Smart contracts are a kind of like always on vending machines that anyone can access. Let's make a decentralized digital currency. Then let's build an unstoppable vending machine that will buy and sell the currency. We'll learn about a proof pattern for ERC20s and how contracts to contract interactions work. So let's go. Let's create this because I'm already excited about this whole thing. So what we're going to do now is the instruction says create your token.so, which is like your token, a smart contract that inherits the ERC20 standard. And from Open Zeppelin, sets token to mint 1000 and, mint it to the person that's going to call the function, which is the msg.sender, and create a vendor.sol contract that sells your token using a payable buy tokens. Oh, someone just hit me up that I am breaking. Is this better? Any feedback from anyone? Wow, no.
I think and the data like where it's audible.
It was breaking too. Can you repeat yourself? So I couldn't hear anything, so I was just reading through the chats on my mobile because I couldn't really hear anyone. But looking at it here, is it audible now? You said I was audible, but it breaks at some point. How about now? Can I get like a thumbs down, if anything? Wow, thumbs down. Not good. How about this? Is this okay? Maybe
Maybe
we'll
we would
try it
try
like
like,
this.
all right then,
Head
let me
back
head
to Speedrun
me to an
Ethereum.
Ethereum.
And
And
so,
so
first
first
thing
thing
that
that
you
you
want
want
to
to
do
do
is
is
just
just
copy
copy
this.
this, head over to your
So
terminal. So
I
I
already
already
did
did
that
this
because I knew I
because
was
I knew I
having
was
some
having some
network
network
problems.
problems.
The
The
first
first
thing
thing
that
that
you
you
want
want
to
to
do
do
is
is
paste
paste
that
that
in
in
the
the
terminal.
terminal.
Normally
Normally
you
you
would
would
hit
hit
enter,
enter,
but
but
I'm
I'm
not
not
going
going
to
to
do
do
that
that
because
because
I've
I've
already
already
done
done
it.
it.
Anyway, once you've pasted the code, you can now run this command to start your local chain, and you can basically deploy the token vendor. So I'm going to go ahead and do this over here. So if we head back to this place, we've done two things. Copy this command, ran it, and it installs the application on our local computer. And once that's done, we want to head into that folder, which is what the cd command does. And then we can run this to start the local chain. And then we're going to, in another terminal, do the same thing, but we'll be running a different command, which will deploy the contract to our local blockchain. So we're going to head back to our terminal and divide the terminal window. So far, can you guys hear me? All right. So now I'm going to less just to see exactly where I am. and I'm in the right folder, so I don't have to do the CD. I'm just going to paste the yarn deploy. And obviously in the third terminal window, we want to do the yarn start to run our front end application. Okay, that terminal is not ready. All right, so this is going to start the front end that will allow people to interact with our token vendor. And once the application is started, we'll be able to see it on this URL. So once that is loaded, we are going to take a look and then we will be exploring the exciting things that we're going to be doing in this challenge. All right, so back to this, and it says in a third terminal window, oh, run this command and start the front end. You'll be able to see it here. I copied that link and I'll put it on the browser. While that is cooking, we'll come back here and now we are at checkpoints. Checkpoint one is your token. So we're going to head into this token file and we're going to ask the mint function to mint us 1000 tokens for the front end. So 1000 tokens, and we are going to see what happens. This is still not ready. So let's go take a look at the code. And this is vendor, and this is your token.sol. And there's a mint function here that's commented. So we will uncomment this. And here they're asking us to put in an address, which we will replace that, and it said our front end address, but our app has not loaded, so we don't know it. But I am going to be connecting with this. This is locked, but I will just connect with this one. So I have a lot of wallets to play with, so I'm gonna go with the other guy, and I'll just copy this address, switch the network to hard hat, and come back to my code, paste that address in here. And what it's going to do is going to mint 1000 token to that address. So now we are going to have to do yarn deploy dash reset to reset the contracts that we deployed, deploy fresh ones to replace those ones. Now let's come back and take a look at what this says. So welcome to Scaffold E2, and this is telling us about the token vendor and what we're going to do. So what we want to see is the token vendor. I'm sure you're eager to see what it looks like. But since it's taking so much time to load up, we're just going to go to debug contracts. And I'm going to have to urge you to keep your hasty eyeballs spilled and wait for us to reveal the token vendor. For now, let's just go see the old, reliable debug contract screen. So basically, when you've deployed a contract, you want to head to the debug contract screen and look at the balance of the front end address, which you sent some tokens, and you should see 1000. So let's hope that works. This is our address. We can copy it and we should put that here and hopefully it works. Yeah, we have a balance of this amount. And to show that that is exactly it, if we were to put some other address like Vitalik, let's see if it's gonna have any token. Oh, that's not correct, Vitalik. So we can check if that's, yeah, he's got a lot of tokens, but he ain't got none of our token, that's for sure. So you see that the front end address indeed does have 1000. So now let's go to checkpoint two, edit the vendor.sol contract with a payable by tokens function. Use a price variable named tokens per each and set to 100. So that's what we're going to do. So vendor, we need a variable called tokens per each, and we're going to say it's a uint 256 because it's a number, and we'll just leave it at 100. and we want a buy token. So we are going to do functions and it's payable. Yep, we didn't put the visibility. And when you have an AI code editor, it really helps you with typing a lot of these things. So, yep, you're going to be seeing a lot of autocomplete from cursor, but sometimes it'd be overdoing and doing things that you don't want. So you're going to have to correct it and manually type out what you want. But a lot of the times it takes away a lot of tiny typings and things that you would have had to do yourself. So it's really helpful the way these AI code editors have evolved to help developers. So you definitely want to be using things like this, but you should definitely still keep learning the principles and improving yourself as a developer all round and not just totally rely on tools. So yep, basically you need a buy token function in the vendor.sol, and the buy tokens function to use the message.value and to calculate the amount of tokens you're going to transfer, the amount of tokens to your token that transfer to the message.sender. So basically you're going to need the buy token is going to calculate how much of the tokens to transfer to whoever is calling the function. And so we are going to come here and see what does the buy token function actually do. So it says amount of tokens is msg.value multiplied by tokens per ETH, and then it does your token dot transfer msg dot sender amount of tokens. And so yep, it basically does what that asks for. So we haven't really looked at the approval pattern and all that stuff, but it will come into play. But for now, we're just going to go back to the website and see what the instruction says. So we take a look at that. The buy token function should use the message at value and transfer to calculate, and that's it. So the next is we want to emit an event called buy tokens, and this is the event. So I'm just going to copy that, head back here and define an event. So we can do it using the event keyword. So we added an event, which basically is just a notification to the outside world that a smart contract does when something happens, when something like an action happens in the smart contract. That's a way for it to tell the outside world, hey, something just happened. And in this case, it's a buy token. It's like someone just bought this token with X amount of ETH and X amount of tokens. And so that is the buy token function. And this is 33 minutes in, and I want to take a moment to ask all of you on the call, if you haven't already minted your badge for today's Sepolia Odyssey, you should definitely do it right now. This is the link. I'm going to drop it in the chat. I haven't actually done that myself, so I'm going to go ahead and take this moment to do it. So if you've booked yours, that is fine. But if you haven't, you should take a minute to get it done now. And if you need to grab some water and be ready, well, we're going to take 2 minutes and be right back. All right, so I got mine done. I hope you guys were also able to do yours. If you have any challenge when you are trying to do that, please leave that in the chat so the community members can help you get that solved. But great, moving on. Next is on command buy tokens section in packages, token vendor pages.tsx. So we're going to go to the front end. So it asks us to uncomment that section. We're actually uncommenting the buy tokens section. Buy tokens. We will need some variables to go with this, so we have to uncomment these guys too. I think this will be relevant for the token balances, so I'll leave that out. Some things still aren't really like stopping their complaints. So let's look at it. But before that, let's take a look at what it looks like. When you try to buy tokens from the vendor, you should get an error. Okay. All right. So let's go to this and head to the vendor. Oh, wow. This is nice. So I can see my token balance, GLD token. I've got 1,000 and you can buy, you can transfer. Oh, cool. So I will hit this. Let's just put one because we're just testing things. Oh no, it's not working. Let's jump back and let's redeploy. And then let's go back to the front end and see what's going on here. So we have the address, the token, this is the vendor, and obviously, I think for some reason, maybe we didn't deploy it. Let's see what contracts were deployed here. It only deployed the token. So let's go check out the vendor. We have a vendor contract here, which, oh, we already had the event here too, but well, doesn't matter anymore. So this is the vendor and let's come to the deploy. Everything in the vendor script is commented so we can deploy it. So why do we need it? Let's go back to the code. Let's go to Speedrun Ethereum and figure out why or do we really need to take that action right now? So we've checked our balance. Can you transfer? Well, we didn't check that, but I think that we can. We're not going back to do that. So checkpoint to edit the vendor, use the price for the variable. Yes, we have that. The buy function, we've done that. Emits an event, we've done that. And so now we're supposed to edit the hard hat deploy script, which we skipped. So we need to edit the hard hat deploy script in this location. So we need to uncomment the vendor deploy lines, uncomment the buy token section. So this was what we skipped to. And so let's go ahead and do this now. We're going to come back here and uncomment the. These are just instructions. This is where the script is at. I don't think there's anything else that we're not doing. We've got that one out as well. So everything looks good. Now let's do the deploy one more time. We're not going to reset it this time. So just deploy the vendor because we didn't deploy it the last time. All right, it broke down with an error with a problem. So let's do this. Oops, it still has a problem. So we are going to need to look into that. So it is reverting while trying to deploy the contract for some reason. So let's actually take a look at our deploy script and our contracts because it typically should work. So tokens, we basically just deploy a token and for the vendor, what are we doing? So we take a token address and we transfer token to vendor address, but that isn't going to work because where is it transferring the tokens from? So, all right, so it's the vendor address. This doesn't exactly work because of permission issues. The token can't just be transferred without if the person trying to transfer it is not the owner of the tokens and hasn't approved. So let's see what we're doing in the token. All right, and back to the vendor. All right, for the constructor here, we're simply just initializing a token at this address. And so basically what we are saying is when the let's go back to the deploy script. When the vendor contract is deployed, transfer 1,000 GLD tokens, 1,000 your tokens to the vendor address. But there's a problem with that, and the problem is the the tokens are not available to be transferred because the address you're asking to do it doesn't actually have any tokens. It doesn't who owns the tokens is this address that you asked to mint this 1000 tokens to. So how do we solve this problem? We come back over here and so at this point, let's see, I'm thinking we're going to have to give the creator of this token, go back to your token. We're also going to have to do something like so we're going to do this and give it like 1,500. So we're basically saying, all right, whoever mints this token, give that person 1,500, and then what we're trying to see is when it's being deployed, since it's the same address that does the minting, then it's going to be able to transfer your token. All right, so let's see what that's going to look like. I'm going to clear this terminal. Clear. It looks like it's a different one. Transfer ownership. What are they talking about? So deploying and we get an error. Vendor transfer ownership is not a function. So yeah, we haven't done this yet. We didn't ask for this. So I'm going to comment that, clear, and here we go again. All right, boom. That did it. So just to reiterate on what we did here and what the problem was. So technically it wouldn't deploy because we're asking the deployer to transfer tokens, your token to the vendor, but the deployer doesn't have the tokens. Hey, how am I supposed to give that guy, the vendor, something that I don't have? And so what we decided to do is when we go to your token, at the point that we are creating the token, we say, all right, you can give the creator 1,000 and you can also give the deployer 1,005 because he's going to be sending 1,000 to the token vendor. And so he's left with 500 and the token vendor now has 8,000. And so now we can head over to this place and you can see now it's 100 tokens per ETH. And if you want to buy, we can try to do I don't have ETH, but I can click on this. Okay, yeah, so I have some ETH and I'm gonna put in one and I get an error, buy tokens not found on ABI. So something about the contract function. So let's try it here. I'm going to put one way. That's maybe I should just. So we'll be going back to the front end to figure out what that error was about, what it's trying to tell us. But for now, okay, we don't have enough ETH. But since it's a testnet, I'm gonna click this like a maniac. And now I have 12 ETH. Now we have more than enough. And there are no read functions, but basically we have bought some tokens because the vendor had some tokens. So let's see. Look at that. We have a balance of 100 GLD tokens. Okay, we'll still go and look at the reason why this is telling us this right now. But that's great. We have our token vendor basically allowing us to buy some tokens. Now let's go back into the code. No, let's go back to the Speedrun Ethereum and see what our next goal is. And right now, the next thing that we have is the goals uncommented buy token sections in this to show the UI to buy tokens on the token vendor tab. All right, we have done that. When you try to buy tokens from the vendor, you should get an ERC20 insufficient balance because the vendor contract doesn't have any tokens yet. Well, we certainly didn't have that problem because we had to deploy the vendor with some tokens. So maybe we probably should not have done that. And that was addressed later down, which, yes, indeed, it is, but we suffered the hard way. But that's good because I'm sure that those of you that are new watching this would learn how problems are solved and learn a thing or two about tokens and how they operate by taking that approach. But let's read the side quest. Send tokens from your front end address to the vendor contract address and then try to buy tokens from them. Mm, yeah, we already bought tokens from them. We can't hard code the vendor address like we did above when deploying to the network because we won't know the vendor address at the time we create the token contract. Yes. So instead, your token remains. And so that's what they're telling us that we did in the deployment script. And that is the reason for doing that. And so it goes on to talk about changing all that and the balances, which we've already seen. So the next thing here is, does the token vendor address start with balance of 1,000 in your token vendor contract? Yes. Can you buy 10 tokens for 0.1 ETH? Can you transfer tokens to a different account? Well, let's try that. Let's transfer tokens. Does anybody have, this isn't actually live yet. I was going to ask for somebody's address, but we're just going to go ahead with the address here. I'm going to go with the third person and switch back to the other guy. And I'm going to try to transfer. Oh, look, it's working. We are transferring 10 unknown to some third person. And voila. Oh, yeah, that is great. So we have just transferred 10 tokens to the other guy or to third person. Uh, that's really cool. So now we can just move on to what's the next instruction here. Look in packages, app to on comments to display vendor e balances. All right, let's go and see. I think we did all of that in one fell swoop, which we probably should not have, but we did already. So uh, let's go ahead and uncomment this too. Let's see what it reveals for us. Is there anything new? I'm gonna refresh this because I can't wait. That is taking a minute. So looking at all of this now, in the deploy script, you will need to call transfer ownership to the vendor to make your front end address the owner. So first, let's go back up here. Goals. Does the vendor address start with a balance of, yes, it does. Can we buy 10? Yes, we can. Can you transfer? I didn't actually check our balance, but yes, it's 0.999. So yes, we did buy for 0.1 ETH. And can you transfer to a different account? Yes. So on comments the ownable part of the contract and inherits the ownable. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially at 9 o'clock, which is the time for the scheduled call to come to an end, but we are going to continue on to build out this token vendor. So this is going to take a little bit or maybe a lot longer. So you're free to hop off and watch the replay if you want to, or if you would like to stay and continue to build this out, then that's totally fine as well. But again, if you haven't, you should definitely get your spots for the events. I think it's open for maybe an hour or so before it's closed. So definitely want to see you on the inside. And thanks for being part of our journey. So we are going back to the challenge. And we are going to uncomment the, they're asking to go back to this place and uncomment this code. And then we are going to inherit this package. So what we just did is vendor contract, and we used the is keyword ownable, which is the name of this package from Open Zeppelin, which is a company that creates smart contract templates for different purposes. So we import the ownable package and we inherit it like this. And so now Our vendor is a smart contract that is ownable, and we can go ahead and remove this because it's not going to be used. I'm not sure why it's complaining. Maybe the package is not found or the package is not installed. So maybe I would have to do some yarn install, and I'm going to go to hard hat and I'll do yarn install. But before I do, I want to check the package.json to see if it's actually, yep, the Open Zeppelin contracts are there. So I'm going to do that yarn install. So it's complaining about the constructor, which we have to change. Do we have to change? I think the ownable needs something. Somebody certainly needs something. So that's it. Ownable needs an owner basically. So technically, when you're using the ownable package, you need to have an address that is assigned to be the owner. And so, since we're inheriting the ownable package, we needed to specify an address that is the owner of the contract. The code lint was basically telling us that, hey, something is wrong, we're missing something, and that's the ownable package missing the owner argument, which we assign to be the person that is deploying the contract. So the deployer will be the owner. And so what we had on the script before, this is we are transferring the ownership and we commented this out. Now we can uncomment it and put in the address of the front end, which is this. We're going to copy that, head back in, oops, the wrong project, and give it the ownership to this contract. And now we can see what else the instruction says. So it's very important, and you can see that the instructions here is our source of truth. That's how we find ourselves whenever we are lost and we don't know what to do. We come back here and try to look, hey, what is it asking us to do? What do we do? That's how we find our way to get through the challenge. So next is look in packages at Next.js app token vendor for code to uncomment to display the vendor eight balances. We've done that. Then you can deploy, reset. So next thing is asking us about these things which we've done. Is it ownable? Which it is. This is the code we were supposed to add to the constructor. We've been doing things the hard way for so long. All of these things are in the instructions in the README. So next is in the deploy script, you will need to transfer ownership to your front end address. We've done that as well. So now is your front end address the owner? Finally, add a withdraw function to the vendor. And that is the last thing. I don't think so. There might still be one more thing to do. But so we are deploy the contracts to the front end once more with all of our latest changes. All right, so what do we have? Oh, nice. This is good. So what we have here is the vendor token balance and the vendor ETH balance. So the vendor has a balance of 900 tokens and it has a balance of 1 ETH. And so you're able to see how much token and how much ETH the vendor has and all this good stuff right out of the box. So what are we gonna do next is, can we transfer ownership? I am sure we can, and we will check that out later. But for now, let's see, only the owner can withdraw. So we want to create a function that lets the owner withdraw all the ETH from the vendor contract. Only the owner can withdraw the ETH from the vendor. So and then there's a side quest. What if you minted 2,000 and only sent 1,000 to the vendor? Is that something anybody has an answer to on the call? You want to chime in on that? What do you think would happen? It's a conversation because it's not like I know, but I have some ideas on what could happen if anybody wants to attempt. So I will be going to. Nobody's feeling brave for sure. Okay, back to this, the withdrawal. All right, that's what we want to do. We want to go back to the vendor and we want to create a withdraw function. And so we will have to say function. And look, it's helping us do it. Isn't that very convenient? So we have a withdraw function, and one of the good things that the ownable, which we just inherited, gives us is this utility function called only owner, and it's basically a modifier. And what that means is a little piece of code that modifies what a function does. And so this little code here is now making this withdraw so that only the owner of the contract can call this. And what it's basically saying is transfer the balance, but it's using the transfer, which is not the way I like to do this. I like to use uh, the call, not the transfer. So it is a different way you do that. It's like this AI. This is the reason why you definitely wanna know the principles, because sometimes these tools be telling you things that you don't want. So finally, this is the version I want, not this. So we're gonna remove this. So this is the more recommended way to send Ether uh, in the industry. Using the call and the send method is not very safe. There's a lot of writings around that, so you can do the research and look it up. But the recommended way to transfer Ether is using this call function rather than transfer or send. So those are two other methods that you can use to send Ether, but this is the preferred way. So here's our function. Withdraw, only the owner can call it, and once you call it, it's going to send the transaction to the address with the value of all the ETH in this contract, and basically just withdraw all of it. So that's what this is. What is this? Why is it saying it's unused? It's unused right here. Sometimes these things be funny. Anyway, we've got our function, so we can redeploy again just to test it out. But I'm gonna head back here and say, so to be honest, like what if you minted 2,000 and only sent 1,000 to the vendor? Well, in a practical sense, it doesn't mean anything other than maybe a rogging that can happen later, because what determines the value of the token is the rate that has been set in the token vendor. And so if the rate is already set at, you know, 100 to 1, and the vendor has 1,000, and the minter, whoever deployed the contract, had another 1,000, what that means is maybe the person can buy more or sell more, but like it really does not change the value of the token itself as it concerns the vendor. So back to this, yes. Let's see what happens. Everything is set to normal. Can we buy now? Amount of tokens. I'm just gonna put 1.3. This function is still, something is still not right there. We're going to come here and do a buy again. All right, now we've got a lot of tokens. So now let's see if we can withdraw, because we just bought some tokens. Our vendor has some ETH. So where is our withdraw function? Need to refresh this because I don't see it. I see a transfer, approve. That's the wrong contract. All right, so here's our withdraw. I was looking in the token. This is the vendor. All right, so withdraw. See, this is our balance, and our balance is up to 10. It was 9, and now it's up to 10. So, yep, we can withdraw from our token vendor. And what will be the final thing? The hardest part of this challenge is to build your vendor to buy the tokens back. The reason why this is hard is the approve pattern in ERC20s. First, the user has to call approve on your token contract. approving the vendor contract to address it. Take some amount of tokens, and then the user makes a second transaction to the vendor to sell the token amount. Vendor should call tokens that transfers from the message that sender to the token contract and blah the amount. And if the user has approved the vendor correctly, token should transfer back to the vendor. It should be sent to the user. Vendor adds a sell token function, edits the vendor, and add a sell token function. You will need extra UI for calling approve before sell tokens. And use the debug contracts tab to call the approve and sell tokens first, but then look in the packages for the extra approve UI to sell tokens to uncomment. And I think, oh, that would be the final functionality that we would need to add. Oh, wow, I'm becoming even more excited. Let's go back and get this done. So our sell tokens function is a simple function, but let's see if the AI is giving us the right thing that we want. So it's doing the transfer from, who is calling the function, the amount, and and then it's saying success if it transfers. And so this is not correct. And the reason this is not correct is it is just asking the function to send the person whatever amount of ether that they put in here without actually calculating the price. So based off of like the tokens to eat. So uh tokens per eat. So now what we're doing is we're calculating an amount of ether to send, which is we're taking the amount of token divided by the tokens per each. So that would give us the amount of ether to send for the number of tokens they put in. So for instance, if they put in like 100 tokens, it'll be like 100 over tokens per ETH. So that should be, and that's what they're gonna get. I'm trying to figure out, is that actually right though? Because so for one ETH you get, yeah, that's exactly right. For one ETH you get 100 tokens. And so for 100 tokens you get one ETH back. Now that is that, but if we wanted to, we would have to do the approve as well. So let's do the approve. We can either do it on in the function. Let's see what the tasks ask us, because we can create the approve in that function or we can do it before. So the hardest part of this challenge is to build a vendor to buy back tokens. This is why it's the approve pattern. First, the user has to call approve on the token contract, approving. All right. So they didn't specify whether we are going to put the approval call in the buy tokens function, or because here's a way we could do this. There's two ways we can do this. We can simply say your token, no, your token, approve. So we can do this. And basically what we're doing here is in the contract, we're saying approve every time you want to do this and then transfer. But if we don't do this, we're saying you don't have to check for approvals here, just try to transfer. But if you're trying to transfer and the token, the this person calling the function has not approved fully the amount that they want to send, then this is going to fail. So what we are going to do is going to stick with this, and then we're going to make sure that in the front end, when the user is calling, the approval is there. So since there is no preferred way to do this, we're going to do it like that. And now we hit reset and go to the front end. Next here. So we want to uncomment everything. All right, trying to figure out what these complaints are about. All right, so it's talking about some deprecation things with scaffold E, but nothing too serious. So I think we're good to go. come back here, refresh our page, and let's see. We have nothing to sell, but why is this buy? We will check it now. If it tells us the same thing, let's go back and check it. Why it's not working. All bugs must be fixed. Why is our buy? So I want to see exactly what line this is. So I think this is it. Where is the function? So the problem is coming somewhere around here. If we go to sell tokens, there's not really a problem here, but for buy tokens though, I think that was where the problem was coming from. So let's go check it out now. Refresh this. 1.5. Am I not going to enjoy my tokens? I'm going to buy 1.5. And yo, that works. We've got 0.15 E and I have all these tokens, so I'm going to sell one. I'm just going to sell one. And so that's the approve. It's done in the front end. So good thing is we don't have to do that. There's a nice little button there for us. That is so sweet. And now we can now click on sell tokens and we still have a vendor balance of this. So I think we've successfully done all of the things. Let's figure out what else do they have for us. We've gone through the approved pattern and everything works nicely. Can you sell tokens back to the vendor? Did you receive the right amount of tokens? Yes. I mean, I didn't check off. I'm like, yes, let's check. Let's check how much tokens did we. Yes, we received the right amount of tokens. And should we, side question, should we disable the owner withdraw to keep the liquidity in the vendor? It's a question. Right now, the owner can remove the ether in the vendor, and so the vendor might just go broke. And so the question is, should we remove that so the vendor will never stay broke? It would be a good idea to display sell token events, create an event, and
Hey guys, had to quickly jump in here. Try to take on the side quest and see if you can add a sell token events to your contracts.
so technically, we have successfully built our token vendor. Hooray! Congratulations to you guys that have stayed up until this point. You guys are champs. So, before we move on to a part we've not covered before, which is testing. So now is a good time to run tests. And since we haven't been on the series long enough to cover tests, I am going to go ahead and just run through the tests and then we're going to go on a break. And because we will be going on a break, I want to announce that we are going to go ahead and create a live token vendor tonight. So we'll take that break and then we'll come back and continue building out that token vendor and we will build our token vendor and deploy it live tonight. So you can go take a break and if you want to drop off and watch the replay, you can do that as well. But that's what's going to happen. So we are going through with this all the way to the end. So next is test it. So we run yarn tests to run the automated testing function. It will test that you hit the core point checkpoints. If you're all green, you're looking for all green check marks and passing tests. I like the sound of that for sure. Because who doesn't like all green check marks? And I like my all green check marks on a blank slate. So I will clean that up. I want to go back out to, yeah, oh, I didn't actually type that. So I'll paste it again. Oh my God. Fingers crossed. Are we gonna get all green check marks? What are these reds? So many reds. Oh no. Many reds that we need to fix. So let's go take a look. Why are our tests failing? So we have three passing and three failing. Like, okay, all right, let's go look at it. Should the first test case is should let us buy tokens and our balance should go up. So I'm gonna go back to the code and head into hard hat contracts first, check our buy function. All right, let's come here. For some reason, I think it may have to do with the name of our contracts. The fact that the name of our function, the buy tokens versus buy token. So let's see. Maybe that is, yep, that is the problem. So what are we gonna do? In order to keep things the same, what we're going to do is we will rather change the thing to the name that it's here. It's buy tokens so that we wouldn't have to change the name in every other place. And then we're going to come to the vendor page and we're going to add our S back. So everything will be okay. So let's just go ahead and clear this and we will redeploy. All right, that's done. Now let's do our tests. All of this time, you guys have not been seeing my terminal and nobody said anything. Like that is so funny. Wow. On the call, no one can see my terminal. Can you guys see my terminal? Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to change that, but it's weird that no one actually said anything till now, until I noticed it. And that's too bad because we're at the end. Um, I'm just going to show the terminal. This is the test now. All of the tests are passing. So we are basically done. And now what we have to do is deploy the contract. If we head over to the, I'm going to stop presenting now. But if we head over to Speedrun Ethereum, after the test, the final thing is deploying it to your, to a testnet and then deploying the front end to a hosted server like Vercel. So we're going to do those two steps today, right after we go on this break and come back for part two, which is absolutely not compulsory for anyone, but we will still have the video out and you can watch the part two later. But this is officially the end of part one, which the tests have been done and all of the tests are passing. And now we want to go ahead and modify our token vendor so that we can deploy it on the live network. So stay tuned for that coming up soon. And I'm just gonna mute myself and you guys can hop off or do whatever, but when I get back, we will continue.